Thank you all for joining us today. We're here this afternoon to discuss a total lack of discussion on a serious problem in the Michigan House of Representatives. We're here to draw attention to a complete lack of attention given to grave allegations of misconduct. Here to explain what that means, I'd like to introduce House Democratic Leader Donna Lasinski.
Thank you. Thank you all for joining us today. And I especially thank you for making time to hear about us speak about the many things, frankly, that you've heard us speak on before. Some of the things we've actually been speaking about for years now. But there's one element to today's discussion that we haven't said out loud before, and that is corruption. We've spoken loudly about the alleged corrupt efforts of former Speaker Chatfield and about the alleged seditious, corrosive efforts to undermine our democracy, taken up by large groups and single actors. But what we haven't addressed is that all of this stems from a culture of corruption in the Republican caucus and a clear lack of accountability on their side of the aisle. We've demanded that accountability time and again, and at every opportunity, we have been rebuffed. We've insisted on behalf of the people of Michigan that we have investigations, bipartisan committees, resolutions to say enough is enough, or that even just let's look at whether or not a line has been crossed. And the Speaker of the House, Jason Wentworth, has shut down every single one of those requests this term, regardless of the topic, the alleged offense, the credible evidence of wrongdoing. There has been one overarching thread. Republicans violating their service to this state has been given a pass on accountability. And we wonder why these offenses get worse and worse. We're literally losing track of the number of times that we have called for accountability, that we've asked you to join us in discussing a new abuse of power within the House of Representatives. And every time, while we're met with exhausting excuses of waiting out the legal process or not wanting to interfere with a criminal investigation, we've seen that these flimsy excuses only serve to wait out the clock and ignore alleged abuses by members of the legislature. Well, enough is enough. You can't blame the clock when you control the clock. And now, with no confirmed voting days in the legislature, in the legislative calendar before lame duck, it appears that Republican leadership are again simply waiting out the clock, running away from accountability for an entire term, 2 years. We want to be able to make that point and to show you what others have said and seen is occurring in our legislature that current Republican leadership refuses to take a look at, instead simply sweeping it under the rug and turning a blind eye. We have a video available that we will now share with you here in this room, and we'll make it available to all of you digitally after this event. The video is a few minutes long, and as you will see, this is a widespread issue within the Republican membership of the House of Representatives that is continually met with no action and no investigations.
The investigation into Michigan's former House Speaker is getting deeper, and now it could bring dark money political fundraising into the light.
It's all bad, and it's all shocking.
The allegations include Chatfield putting members of his family on the payroll of the PACs. Staffers who worked for the Michigan House also double-dipped, ran their own political business. In Michigan, so-called dark money, who contributes and how it's spent, is not transparent.
There's real room for reform here, and we can't avoid this issue.
Michigan State Police, working with the Michigan Attorney General, raided the home of 2 Lansing power players.
Rob Menard ran an outside political consulting firm called Victor Strategies while on the state payroll, working for their friend Lee Chatfield.
Of the Michigan House Democrats and all Michiganders introduced a resolution to create a select committee to investigate the actions of our former Speaker of the House, Lee Chatfield.
I don't care what the political party is. If there is wrongdoing going on, it needs to be exposed, plain and simple. I think that's very important for our members to know, but I think it's also important for the public to know. We need to do a better job of earning the public trust.
Some state lawmakers say there needs to be a formal investigation into whether Representative Matt Maddock violated the U.S. and Michigan Constitution.
He's accused of promoting conspiracy theories, asking Vice President Pence to throw out Michigan's election results and taking busloads to last week's protests on Capitol Hill.
The Republican re-elected in November told the crowd he wanted Michigan's November election results thrown out. This comes after he for months made allegations of election fraud that courts did not just dismiss, but flat out said were not credible allegations.
Rudy Giuliani appearing before the bipartisan House Oversight Committee for hours, claiming the election was stolen from President Trump.
Important to point out that Bill Barr, the U.S. Attorney General, said the Department of Justice has looked into these allegations of widespread election fraud and have found no evidence to back it up.
The FBI is on the move in Michigan, serving federal subpoenas to those who signed on as false electors for former President Donald Trump.
Former Michigan GOP State Party Chair Laura Cox, in her deposition for the January 6th committee, testified there was a plot to have these fake electors hide in the Capitol overnight so they could cast their votes for Trump the following day.
I told him in no uncertain terms that that was insane and inappropriate.
Introduced a resolution this week to hold Republicans accountable and to have them investigated by the U.S. Department of Justice for seditious conspiracy.
These representatives committed crimes against the state and the nation, against the foundations of our democracy. They have broken federal law and betrayed their oath of office.
So they have accused me of seditious conspiracy. Well, I don't claim to be a constitutional expert, never have.
With their efforts and involvement to overturn the 2020 presidential election and to delay the sacred, peaceful transition of power, justice must be sought. We must pursue accountability.
I am offended to impugn my reputation, my good name of O'Malley. Well, screw the both of you.
We have already called for Representative Rendon to be censured for her role in this criminal conspiracy. A bare minimum reprimand for her well-documented abuse of office in service to this plot to overthrow the results of the 2020 presidential election.
We need an investigation now, no matter how much the Republican majority doesn't want to draw attention to these alleged crimes.
Michigan's Attorney General Dana Nessel is requesting a special prosecutor to look at the case of several prominent political and law enforcement figures allegedly conspiring to illegally obtain voting machines.
9 people were investigated for possible involvement, including Berry County Sheriff Dar Leaf, current GOP nominee for AG Matt DePerno, and State Rep Dari Rendon.
County clerks trying to convince him to hand over voting machines and digital logbooks. Now, according to the AG's investigation, they got their hands on several and could now face criminal charges for doing so.
You can't touch them, you can't turn them around, you can't do anything with those machines. So you obviously, if you can't touch them, you can't seize them.
From where we stand, this should be an easy decision, at least for any member of the legislature with nothing to hide. This investigation lives and dies at the discretion of the Speaker of the House, Jason Wentworth. So in a sense, we're here today for 2 reasons. Not just for the actions or alleged actions of the former Speaker, but also the inaction of the current one. The people of Michigan deserve answers.
So thank you. Today I'm joined by Representative Joe Tate, Representative Tyrone Carter, and Representative Brenda Carter. They stand with me today to say enough is enough, and it's time to call this corrosive, destructive culture of the Republican leadership exactly what it is: corruption. Thank you, and here's Representative Tyrone Carter.
Thank you, Leader Lozinski. Thank you all for being here. We met in this room 201 days ago on March 24th. If you saw the video, when I introduced House Resolution 260 to investigate the former Speaker, Lee Chatfield, for his alleged crimes against the House. We told you that there were innumerable questions about his dark money practices and how he manipulated and intertwined his official state-funded staff with political activities. These accusations are all over the media landscape. Many of you have reported them, and while certainly not trivial, other small incidents. That resolution sat in the Government Operations Committee for 200 days, held there by Speaker Jason Wentworth and his loyal committee chairman, Representative Mike Mueller, precisely as we warned it would happen. What other words are there for this? When investigation after investigation is waved off or held down in committee without ever being granted consideration, that's corruption. It is not my job to speculate why or what they wish to keep most hidden from the committee, from the members of the House, or from the people of Michigan. At the center of that scandal is the former speaker, but the person that is keeping us in the dark and holding down our request for investigations into Representatives Maddock, Rendon, and others is the current speaker, Jason Wentworth. This has to end. We must have accountability. To trot out the same lines about not interfering with outside investigations, about letting the legal system play out, that this is a distraction from the culpability is not seeking accountability in the House, with the authorities the Speaker already possesses. It has become predictable that Republican leadership will not only look away, but will also keep others from looking into their way. And their caucus, our colleagues, certainly act like they know their secrets will stay buried under the current policy under this Speaker of the House. As elected officials, we are held to a higher standard, and we've not met that standard with these allegations. Leadership comes with responsibilities, and you may have to make difficult, even hard decisions, but that's what you do as a leader. You know, it is, I'll say this. We have to operate by principle, not by party, and this is straight up party. So with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Brenda Carter.
Thank you, Representative Carter. We met in this room not that long ago to talk about allegations of brazen corruption and abuse of office against Republican Representative Dare Rendon. Actions that would amount to nothing less than an assault on our democracy, and allegations that paint a clear picture of abuse of office, and leveraging her position as a representative of the people to coerce some of those very same people into assisting in a criminal conspiracy. Some of you in this room reached out to Republican Speaker of the House, Jason Wentworth, asking him about his plan of action condemning these alleged actions of Representative Rendon, and found he had none. You got more of the usual. Tired lines about letting the legal investigation run its course. I can tell you what I hear when he says that, and has his staff say it. I don't hear that it's a legal system they are waiting for, but a clock on his leadership. Running out the clock on his time in the House of Representatives. He and Representative Rendon share one thing in common, apart from their party, and their desire to leave the truth of these accusations buried and hidden from the people. And that is that they both are third-term members who will not be returning to our legislative session next year. Both seem to be betting big that they can ride out the clock with their inaction and disinterest in the work of the people in untangling these allegations. Whether that is born of laziness or complicity, the sad and dire truth is they will never know without the thorough investigation we have called for. To unearth the lengths of which Representative Rendon may have gone in her efforts to misrepresent this alleged criminal sham investigation as proper and authorized business of the House of Representatives. And for this term of service, with no confirmed days on the floor action in the House before lame duck, it looks like more of the same, that they have succeeded. This investigation could and should have begun This investigation could and should have begun the moments these troubling details came to light. And whether they lean on the session calendar they author, or they imagine the false conflicts without outside investigations, or just their own indifference to the abuse of office. All this amounts to is zero accountability for members of the majority party here in the House that may serve to perpetuate further abuses. That perpetuates a culture of Republican corruption. And I'll now turn it over to Representative Joe Tate.
Thank you, Representative Carter, and those of you here. What enables a corrupt caucus, spoiled rotten on a decade of privileges of majority with no ethical guardrails in place to curb the abuse of those privileges is our striking lack of an ethical oversight committee. Something else we have called for this term in this room. There is a clear pattern of Republican immunity to any form of accountability within our chamber. And as we've seen play out, that directly fuels increasingly corrupt and ethically bankrupt behavior from the members of the majority party. As House Democrats, we have plenty of priorities for the people of Michigan, from our My Pocketbook plan to protecting the reproductive rights of women and keeping doctors free to provide the health care their patients need without the threat of imprisonment. But time and again, we have to keep coming back here to shine a light on the rampant corruption and whatever latest misuses and abuses our colleagues in the Republican caucus are alleged to have committed against the people of Michigan. Going all the way back to January 7th, 2021, when House Democratic leader Lisinski wrote to Speaker Jason Wentworth, calling on him to address the actions of the Republican members of the House that sought to help overturn our last presidential election. Some of those members, our colleagues, signed on to a letter to former Vice President Pence urging him to delay certification of the vote. The Speaker took no action. Later that January, Representative Darren Camilleri introduced a resolution to censure Representative Matt Maddock for being present and assisting in organizing Michiganders to participate in the events at the Capitol on January 6th. Speaker Wentworth took no action, and the resolution has sat there for nearly 2 years in the Government Operations Committee, dolefully held down by Chair Mike Mueller. That same month, Representative Abraham Ayash introduced a resolution to create a bipartisan select committee to examine Representative Maddox's January 6th involvement. Speaker Wentworth took no action. And likewise, that resolution sits idle in Representative Mueller's committee. June of 21, Democrats offer a resolution calling for a bipartisan select committee to investigate Michiganders' involvement in the January 6th Capitol riot. Speaker Wentworth took no action, and Committee Chair Mike Mueller stalled the resolution. In February of this year, Democrats proposed the creation of a House Select Committee on Ethics. The Republican majority expressed no interest in an ethics committee. Speaker Wentworth took no action. And Representative Steve Johnson continues to suppress the resolution in the Oversight Committee he chairs. I myself brought forth a resolution this March condemning the attempted undermining of our democracy by 5 of our Republican colleagues by attempting to execute a national coordinated false electors strategy in conjunction with the Trump campaign and the Michigan Republican Party, and urging the Attorney General to prosecute these alleged crimes. Speaker Wentworth took no action, and Representative Graham Filler, chair of the House Judiciary Committee, has fulfilled the plan to bury this resolution forever. Likewise, Representative Tyrone Carter, here today, offered a resolution to create a bipartisan select committee to examine the actions of former House Speaker Lee Chatfield, Committee Chair Mike Mueller has kept the resolution held down in his Government Operations Committee, seemingly according to Speaker Wentworth's plans. Near the end of August, we sent a letter to Speaker Wentworth urging an investigation into the alleged actions of Representative Dare Rendon. There is no such investigation today. This is no coincidence that every time we ask for accountability for alleged abuse of office, subversion of our democracy and institutions, and investigation into dark money and corrupt political schemes of the former speaker in the most bipartisan manner possible, and offering the speaker direct influence in the membership of these investigatory committees, or even just a little basic bipartisan ethics committees. These resolutions all find the same fate. Speaker Wentworth does nothing while corruption runs rampant in his caucus, and every time finds a committee chair willing to stifle any daylight from ever reaching the truth behind these allegations. Allegations that reach well over a dozen members of Speaker Wentworth's caucus. The people need to know it's happening. Thank you.